I'm Marcia Hickey, Children's Librarian, and welcome to this week's book talk. The book I'm going to be discussing is Linda Sue Park's Prairie Lotus. And the reason I have this book next to it, Little House on the Prairie, this is her attempt to write a diverse Little House on the Prairie. When the author, who is an award-winning, she won the Newbery Award for one of her books, was a little girl, she owned the set of the Little House on the Prairie books, and she read and reread them. She wrote fan fiction stories about them, and in her author's note at the back she says 50 years later she can still quote sayings from Little House on the Prairie. But as an adult she realized the prejudice in these books, because in these books Laura's ma absolutely hates the Indians, and that's the term they use in the book instead of Native Americans, because she's so afraid of them. And she uses lots of disparaging terms about the Indians, and Linda Sue Park realized that as an adult. But as an adult, she is a Korean American woman, and she, through her life, experienced lots of prejudice. So she wanted to write a book about the prairies and traveling and the adventures Laura had, but using a Chinese American little girl. Her father is white, her mother is Chinese. They've met in Los Angeles in his shop. The mother was the seamstress. There were riots against the Chinese, and her mother got injured in the riots, and she eventually succumbed to those. So after the mother passes away, the father and Hannah are so grief-stricken, they pack up and they decide they're going to settle someplace new and get away from all this prejudice. So they leave California and they decide to go to the prairies. Whereas Laura's family went west, Hannah's family, she and her dad, go east over the Rockies and into the plains. They also go in a covered wagon like Laura did, and it takes them 3 years. So obviously they stop in towns, they spend the winter places, but when they're a day away from the town where they're going to settle, and it's a railroad town, so it's got a population, because by the time this story takes place in 1880, the trains are already going all the way to California, and the train towns are busy towns. They have a population, and the dad is going to start a shop that has materials and cloths, and Hannah's dream is to someday take her mother's place and be the seamstress and sew the dresses, because the dad wants to hire someone. She wants to do that job. Her other dream is to finish her education. She can already read the 6th level, which is the top level, but when she finally gets admitted to the school in her new town, she's in the 4th level. And she experiences a lot of prejudice from the children. She wins them over because children they're less rigid than adults. And slowly she starts to make friends. But then an incident happens and the families take almost all the children out of the school except Bess, who's her best friend, and another younger girl. So the teacher comes up with, well, I know, we're gonna prepare you to take the test and graduate she does with high honors. So she's achieved that goal. Her father is about to open his shop, and another incident happens where she gets hurt, but the townspeople blame her. But it's through her love and friendship of her best friend Bess and her beloved teacher, Miss Walters, that they go around and speak to the women, and they convince them to come to the shop. It wasn't her fault. It was the people who attacked her because they were prejudiced against Chinamen, as they call it in the book. So it's a book of coming of age, defeating obstacles, reaching your goals, and being positive the whole way and using love to do that. This book, Prairie Lotus, is appropriate for children in grades 5 through 8. It's a great combination to study the two and learn about diversity and learn ways that we might be prejudiced towards others and not even realize this. I hope you read this book and enjoy it. Thank you for listening.